face it, not everything you make in art is great. Sometimes you have good days, and sometimes you have bad days. Sometimes your art is excellent, and other times your art sucks.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to this new video. This is going to be the first of a series of videos titled "Your Art Sucks." Plain and simple, your art sucks. And the idea behind this series is to make you feel bad, make you feel terrible, horrible about your art, and then quit art altogether. I'm kidding. Relax. That's not the idea of this video series. No, yeah, what I'm going to do with this series is I'm going to take a look at all of my art. Okay, so it's not your art, it's not other people's art, it's my art. I'm going to take a look at my art, and I'm going to nitpick my art. I'm going to show you pieces of art that I either hardly ever or never show off because it's bad. In my opinion, it's bad, and I'm going to explain to you why I think it's bad. And yeah, just take a look at some of the mistakes that I made back then, how I corrected those mistakes, and how hopefully, if you see that you make some of these same mistakes, then maybe hopefully it could help you improve your art also, or just also to shine a light at some of the things that you need to take into consideration when you're working with comic art, and yeah, hopefully just expose some of those ideas and elements to you, and yeah. So I mean, this is in no way a bash at any art or any artist or any art, because no, I mean, art is incredibly subjective, highly subjective. No, for art, you can apply that phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure. No, because what one person considers good, another person can consider bad, and vice versa. And we should not take to heart those differences of opinions, because in the end of the day, they are opinions. You could have a completely different opinion about something as someone else does, and it doesn't invalidate their opinion, and obviously it doesn't invalidate your own opinion. So we all have that ability to think differently about many different things. So in terms of that, I mean, I'm going to show you pieces that you may think are great, or you may think just suck, or maybe you may be in agreement with me, or you may disagree with me. Who knows? Either way, whatever the case may be, if there is any differences or any points that you like to point out, any points that you'd like to make, please share those ideas in the comments below, because sparking a debate about what is good and bad in art, I think, is healthy for artists. I think it's healthy for people that consume art. And by that, I mean buying comics, buying art, and things like that. So, and so, yeah, I'm going to start this debate with showing my art pieces. I would love it if you could continue the debate in the comment section below. And I'll leave this video today with some questions that I would like for you to answer, and hopefully you would do me the honor of answering them in the comment section. And so I'd like to hear your opinions. So I'm going to start off by criticizing my art. All of the art pieces in this series of videos, they're all going to be my art. It's just not going to be anybody else's art, unless, of course, if you feel that you would like for me to nitpick your art, then yeah, I mean, you can show me a high-res picture, I guess, and we'll take a look at it, and I'll point out some of the things that I think you could either improve or change, or maybe give you a fresh pair of eyes on your art. I don't know. There's so many things that we can do with it, so many different ideas that we can share. But that's the idea, is to share, to help each other grow, or point out some things, and yeah, because my personal journey of art started or started again in 2019. I picked up drawing again, and in the 3 years I have learned a lot of different things, and I feel that it would be great if I could share that information with you, because maybe someone can use it, or maybe they can't. I don't know. Maybe somebody could use this information, or maybe they could just enjoy looking at the art. I don't know. But I had this feeling that it would be good to share some of the information that I've learned to help other artists who may be stuck in some areas of art, or who may not even be aware of some of the mistakes they make, because that also happens. There are mistakes that I made that I was not aware of at first, and then once I started learning about some of the concepts that I'm going to share with you today, I was able to look back at my art and say, wow, no, that piece could have been so much better if I had applied what I know now. And so that's the idea, to look back and to see what concepts I could have applied to different pieces that would help make them better. And that's the idea. So without further ado, I'm sorry for that long intro, but without further ado, I'm going to start off with this first piece. And here it is. This is the first piece of art that I'm going to critique and destroy. And this is a fan art piece I did of Captain Marvel about a month before the Captain Marvel movie came out. And you can check the date of when I finished. I did this in the Latin American way, so the day is first and then the month. So this is done on the 10th of February in 2019, almost exactly a month before the release of the movie. And yeah, so why do you know that? Someone may ask. Because my wife's birthday is in March, and so I remember that year I took her to. We went to the movies to see that. I don't know if it was a very good birthday present, looking back at it now, but we thought it might be a good way to celebrate. But anyways, yeah, I don't want to get too distracted. But yeah, so this is the piece, and yeah, I don't think you may people who have been following me for like the last year or so may have never seen this, because I don't post this at all anymore. Other than that first time when I posted this on Instagram. You can see this on Instagram. If you look at my Instagram account, you can scroll all the way back and you can see this piece there. But yeah, this is what I did for Captain Marvel. I was excited about that franchise. I didn't think that it would be sequestered and destroyed the way it has been recently, but yeah, it is what it is, and this is the piece. But yeah, so now let's take a look at it. In my opinion, this sucks. This is bad. This is horrible, and there's so much more that I could have done to this that could have made this better. Now, and we're going to analyze and take a look at what is it that makes this a bad piece of art. Now, if I'm looking at this. One of the first things that pops off to me is that there's no rendering done to this. I did the line work. I'm sorry, there's minimal rendering, because I've just seen a few things in rendering, but there's minimal rendering. There could be more, but I take a look at this. I see the contour lines. I see the drawing lines, but there is, and I also see like spots of black. The spots of black here, around different muscle areas, and that's nice. But this is a suit. This is a superhero suit, and other than let's take a closer look. For example, other than this black area here, this black area here and here, this black area here, this black area along the bicep, this black area here on her boob. Other than these black areas, I mean, there's no other rendering done to the suit. So I don't know, I can't interpret, I can't tell if this suit is shiny, if this material is leather, if it's some kind of synthetic material, if it's cloth. I can't see any of that. I can't tell that by the way I've rendered this. Now, so I have my blacks. The blacks are here. These black areas, the heavy black areas. But then from here, I'd have to render. I have to render either to make it look like it's shiny, or to make it look like it's not shiny and it could be some kind of other fabric. And so here there's no rendering. So rendering would have helped this piece, to at least to make it so you can be able to distinguish what material is what, and also the shading, to help identify where the light source is at. And because from just by looking at this, you can't really tell where the light source is at, and I'll get into that in just a second. So I have a piece of paper here, and it's just a piece of paper. I just cut out a piece. What is wrong with this? No rendering, right? No rendering, or minimal rendering. Where do you see rendering, Elliot? Right here. This is considered rendering. This is rendering. This is rendering. This is rendering. Minimal. I have it on the hand here also. That there on the hand. That's rendering. The lines right there are rendering. Minimal stuff. Why are you drawing on the original art, Elliot? Because it's mine. I can do with it what I please. And so now that's clean. Hopefully I didn't pick up any ink off that, but who knows. Anyways, so number one, no rendering. I could have done some rendering to this, could have made it look a little bit better. There could be some people that make the argument that no, you can just have it like blacks and it could look like a shiny suit. Yeah, that could be true. That could work. But even then, if that's the case, if you want to do like shiny suits, you can always do like a thinner line here and connect it, or have some kind of lines here, some kind of form, little circles or something to indicate that this is shiny. But there is none of that in this, so it's just. So it is what it is. No? So that's the one thing that I saw. There's no rendering. Another thing apart from the rendering is line weights. Let's take a look here. Number 2. Line weights. Elliot, what do you mean by line weights? Just give me a second and I will show you exactly what I mean by line weights. I'll take advantage of the fact that I have this paper here. When you draw, especially when you ink, you can put different kinds of lines down. You can put a line like this, and this line, for example, has a specific thickness to it. Now I can get another line, another marker, another micron. I can do another line, and this line is just ever so slightly thicker than this other line. Just to make it a little bit more exaggerated, I can get this, and I can do that. And see, and this line is much thicker than these two lines. Also, the thickness of your line is line weights. Line weights. That's what line weights is. That's line weights. And so when you're drawing, you have to take into consideration the thickness of the line. When I first learned that blew my mind. It blew me away like completely, because I was like, wait, what? Even the thickness of the line is what you have to take into account. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a disaster. Like I'm not gonna be able to get anything done if I have to think about that. But yeah, it's true. The thickness of the line is super important. Now that you know about this line thickness thing, you can take a look at this piece and see why this is wrong. Because, for example, there's some more zoom ins here. Manual zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. But yeah, here, for example, this line is the same thickness as this line, the same thickness as this line on the star, same thickness as the line on the sash, the line on the boot, the line on the rendering, the line on these little straps here, the line here. All of the lines have the same thickness. And when you have a drawing with the same thickness, a line thickness all throughout, you can't perceive the depth of anything. You can't see how far back something is, how far close something is. You can't see any of that. You just see like an array of lines. You just see this. You just see that. But with line thickness, with line weight, you're able to like make some areas thicker makes some areas thicker. And if I were to ask you which object in this is closer to the viewer, more than likely you would say that this circle and this D looking shape are closer to the viewer, and that's exactly the effect that a thicker line would give. So the idea would be to highlight areas of this drawing that we think, or we would assume, would be closer to the viewer. So if I were to ask you, which part of this figure here do you think would be closer to the viewer? My first immediate response would be this leg, her right leg, because she has it bent in this direction. It would make it seem as if that this leg should be closer to the viewer. So this is a prime area for increasing your line weight, making it thicker, make your lines thicker on this area here. If you do that, then you'll help bring this leg forward. You can create the illusion of depth, and this is going to come at the viewer, and henceforth. If you don't believe me, please take a look at all the professional artists. Take a look at some of their images, especially, for example, when they have that fist like flying straight at you. That fist is going to have a thick black line around it because they want it, in your face. In the case for references, if you're looking for any references, because I have references also for that, I'd recommend you take a look at Art Adams. Like right now, or not right now, continue watching the video, but after you watch this video, go to Instagram, check out Art Adams, and take a look at some of his work on Spider-Man, just some of his work in general, and you'll see that he plays a lot with contour lines. So I'm sorry, with the line weights and the thickness of lines. So line weights here would have helped a lot. Would have helped bring that leg forward. Would have helped create the illusion of depth a little bit, because it's really difficult to perceive depth in this if there's no background, there's no foreground, there's no middle ground, there's nothing here. It's just a figure, and then this symbol in the back. So everything is left up to interpretation. So that would be one thing. Line weights make some areas of the figure dark, with a thicker line around it than other areas. So you can have some areas coming forward and some areas stay in the back. For example, also this hand. Because here, for example, in this area of the drawing, we see the hand, we see the symbol, we see the sash, we see the ball thing. And so out of those three things, which is closer to the viewer? The hand. The hand is closer to the viewer than this symbol and then this sash. So here you can use a thicker line weight maybe. You can use a thicker line weight here, maybe to as far as the forearm, and then that'll be it. Or you can fade that line back into the figure. Who knows? But here would be a prime place to put it, because this is in front of the sash and in front of this symbol. The symbol, for example, just leave it as it is, because you don't want to make any thicker lines on that, because this is going to appear as if this is closer to the viewer, and that's going to completely distort and destroy this image. So things in the back should not have thick lines. No, things in the front should. So here, for example, you can put a thicker line around this. This hand, for example, since it's towards the back, you can leave that as it is. Leave that as it is in the back, and then bring this one forward. So that's one idea. So we have no rendering, line weights. Need to improve the line weights. Yeah, apart from the line weights, what else can I see? Let's see. Another thing that I can see off the top of the head. Line weights is a lot, because line weights, for example, you can take you into this hair section. Like the hair, this should have more lines to help you understand that this is hair. This just looks like little spots of these figures here. But here, for example, there's this area here that I'm highlighting. That's supposedly hair. But if I don't do something about the line weight here, you could almost interpret this as this is being part of that star in the back. So it gets lost in translation here. And this line, for example, has to have or should have like a uniform contour line, uniform line weight line with this here, with the rest of this hair, so it can make it seem like this is all part of one, piece of hair. And the same thing here at this bottom part here. And so yeah, so line weights are incredibly important, incredibly important. So yeah, so that's one. Another thing that I'm looking at is number 3, proportions. And that's probably my number 1 pet peeve about this piece of art, is that the proportions are completely wrong. Just awful wrong. And it all stems from the head. If I take a look at her head, her jawline, her jaw finishes about here, finishes here. And then the top of the head, considering the hair, would probably be around here. Considering the curve of this, probably be about here. So if you were to have this area here from this space here, this would be a unit of measure. This space would be a unit of measure for the proportions, and then you'd have to measure this out for the rest of the body. Now, I have a live stream video on my channel where I take a look at proportions. You can refer back to that. But if not, I use this image right here. This image right here of John Buscema's work, drawing an Invisible Woman. I use this image as a reference. And if you take a look at that image, we can see that the head, when you take it as a unit, is going to have a certain amount of head length, from the head to the tip of her to her ankles, and that length is eight heads. So there should be 8 heads between the top of her head here to her, around her ankle area. And here we can clearly see it's not. If we take a look at the image, also we can see that there should be 1, 2, 3 heads between the top of her shoulder here to her wrist, and we can see that that's clearly not the case here. Now, if you take this, let's see. If we measure here and here, almost perfect right here. So if we measure this distance here, now this is going to help us a lot. If we measure this distance on her arm, you have 1 right here. No? You have 1, 2 heads, and then you're about this way into her arm, into her hand. You need to add 1 more head. 1 more head to this, which should put her hand about here. And so you have to extend all of this, Not draw one long wrist and then put her hand up, but just extend everything. Extend her shoulder, extend her bicep area, extend her forearm, extend her wrist and her hand, and it should end up here. Considering the size of her head, considering the size of the head, it should be it. And so also, by conclusion, you also have to extend the body and extend her legs and everything. And so you shouldn't be able to see the full figure on this page, at least not with this size of the head. So if you wanted to put the full figure, you have to make this head smaller. You have to make it smaller. And also, proportions are incredibly important. And the way you drew, the way I draw this, if you were to draw something like this yourself, you would just completely distort the figure and give it almost like a dwarf-like appearance. And so that's horrible. And so yeah, how did I come across this? Someone told me check your proportions in the drawing once, and I was like, what the f, WTF is the proportions? And so I checked it out and I looked at it and I researched and I saw what it was. And then I apply it now to all of my drawings, and it's, in my opinion, it's helped me improve a lot in terms of that, at least with my art. And it's something that I didn't do here. Here, what I did was I drew and I did things innately, like what I thought needed to be drawn at the time that I drew it. So I drew this head, I drew everything nice, it looks really nice, and then I drew her body and I drew everything as I thought it should be drawn. I assumed that this is enough space between her chest and her head, and enough space between her chest and her pelvis, and then her pelvis and her knee. I assumed this space. But when you're looking at it and when you look down to the actual measurements and the units, you can see that all of this is tiny. This is like a dwarf. This is like a dwarf Captain Marvel. It's Captain Dwarf. That's what this is. So it's not what it should be. And so that's another thing that you should take into consideration. Proportions. So yes, I'm looking at this proportions. And also, for example, her hands. It's not an art thing. I mean, these three things are, but hands is just something specific to this piece. Like hands should not be that big. Your hand should not be bigger or as big as your whole head. Normally, for example, if a head is 1 unit, then your hand is about 3/4. It's big. It covers more than half, but not entirely the whole head. So you can try this out with yourself. You can put your hand to your head and see how much space you cover, and it shouldn't be that much. I don't think there's any person whose hand can palm their own head. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's not true. So, yeah, so about 3/4 would be a good way to. So if this is half, it should be about here. From her jaw to here should be about the size of her hand. So so this has to be reduced. This has to be smaller. This also has to be smaller. Just make those parts smaller. I think the feet is okay. I think just mean obviously check the proportions, but I think that's that size of the foot. I think it could work. And then yeah, another thing, rim lighting. Rim lighting is good. If you saw the previous live streams that I did with Adam, the one live stream that I did with Adam, we took a look at rim lighting and how that helps. But yeah, rim lighting here is it's just a disaster because, for example, I'll give you Exhibit A here, this arm. I have the line of the arm, this line here, which this is where the arm finishes, and then the hair continues here. This is where the arm finishes. And then I have this black area here that I darkened. And then in between the black area and that line, there's this white space here. That white space is called rim lighting. And I put rim lighting on this muscle. I'll put rim lighting here on this muscle, on this other side, by the elbow, by this area up here, and also here. I also have rim lighting here for some reason. I don't know why. There's rim lighting, and there's rim lighting here also. And rim lighting here. The rim lighting in this area here makes it seem as if like her back curves that way. Or maybe that's just the line that I drew there, and that's just horrible. Horrible. So there's rim lighting here on the boob, rim lighting here across her back, rim lighting on the leg, rim lighting on these muscles, rim lighting here, rim lighting everywhere you look. And rim lighting is good, but it should not be overused like this. Because if you have rim lighting on this end, and if you have rim lighting on this end, then you're going to completely kill the illusion of your light source. You're not going to know exactly where your light source is from, or unless maybe you have two light sources coming this way. But again, you have to execute that in a different way, and not like this. Not like this. So yeah, but I mean, yeah, just taking a look at this, you can't even really tell where the light source is at. By taking this into account, I would say maybe here, like this. The light source is like this. It's coming from up top, pointing on that way. But if that were the case, then this area here should be darker. No, this area, this side here should be darker. So inconsistent light source would be another one also. No? Inconsistent light source. So those hands is not an actual art concept, but rendering, line weights, proportions, rim lighting, all this is actual art concepts that you have to take into account. So you have rendering, line weights, proportions, rim lighting, light source. You have to take into consideration your light source. So all these things, for example, you have to take a look at. And if you were to improve on all these things, this drawing would be a whole lot better, just a whole lot better, and you wouldn't have the mistakes that I have. So that's yeah. So there's these are the things that you have to take into account. rendering, line weights, proportions, rim lighting, inconsistent light source. These are things that are a mistake on this particular piece. And so the idea would be not to repeat those mistakes and to correct that for your next drawing. So in the next drawing, you can do the same figure. You can do this same size head if you like, and then just make sure that everything is according to the proportions. Make sure when you're rendering, put light. You have a light source, and then stick to it, and then shade according to the light source. Render so that we can tell that this is the fabric is what it is, what it is supposedly, and yeah. So these are just concepts that we can improve. We can apply it so that we can improve the art piece dramatically and a whole lot better. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to take up too much time also with the video, but that is this first video. If you've noticed other mistakes, please let me know. Please share them in the comments below. Oh, and actually, speaking of this, I thought this was so good back then that I even went ahead and colored it myself. And here are the colors. And the colors are almost as bad, if not worse, than what the artwork is. So this just looks horrible. And not when I mean horrible, like this is not something that I would publish in the book per se. I personally wouldn't. I would feel embarrassed if I saw this in a comic and I had my name on it. I personally wouldn't like that. But yes, because I mean I know there's so much better. There's so much I can do to make it better. And better for publishing and better for you, the paying customer. I mean I wouldn't want to see this kind of art in a book anyways. So this is the piece. Again, this is probably the first time you've seen this because I don't post this often. I don't brag about this piece, but I have it and I did it and my name is on it and yeah. So do I destroy this? Do I get rid of this? No, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep both of these pieces. I have both of these pieces in my display folder with the rest of my art. Because this is a reminder of, or number one, it helps me to see how far I've come along since 2019. I think I've gotten a whole lot better. I think my art doesn't look like this. I think it looks better. I could be mistaken, but I think I've made an improvement. And I've heard before, like, wow, Elliot, your art looks a whole lot better than a few years ago. It's crazy how you've improved so much in just a short amount of time. And I attribute that to these things, to understanding these concepts of what art is and applying it. So rendering, what is that? And I looked that up. I investigated. I saw some of my favorite kinds of rendering, and I imitated, what I can of the rendering that I saw. The same for line weights. Who works well with line weights. I took a look at that artist. I applied what I saw them do in my art, and the same for proportions, rim lighting, light sources, all these things. So it's something that you have to make an effort to study. It's something that takes time. Because 3 years is a lot of time. But you can see progress. Some people can learn these things faster. Some people take more time to learn it, but it's okay. So I mean, everything happens in its own appropriate amount of time. And so yeah, I keep this and I look back to it every so often and I see, okay, this is what I used to draw. These are some of the mistakes I made, and now I know not to make those mistakes. And so that's it. That's it for this first episode of Your Art Sucks. And I'm going to come back with some more because I have a stack of drawings that I don't post that are just as bad as this, if not worse. And at the same time, I have a stack of drawings that I think are really good, which I always post, and which is also some of the art that you see in the Behind the Art series. So Behind the Art shows the good. Your Art Sucks is going to show the bad, and so you can see that progress. You can see the differences and the changes that I make, and then hopefully apply them to your art if you feel that you have some of the mistakes that I have. And yeah, so if you If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. If there's something that I failed to point out, if there's something that you think that also needs work, please put it in the comment section below. If you think I'm full of crap and this art looks great and you want to buy it right now, or I don't know, whatever, then also put that in the comment section below. Let's get a debate going, a healthy debate, and let's just share our ideas. I'm going to come back maybe next week, or I don't know, just later with another video dissecting my art. And then that's it. And hope you liked it. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and share. Tell all your friends about me. Get all your friends to subscribe also. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.